Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross and I'm the founder at designcuts.com, and this week I'm joined by my fellow Brit and hand lettering expert Ian Barnard, American retro design expert Dustin Lee, and the incredibly talented South African illustrator Lisa Glantz. This week we're joined by the lovely and wonderfully talented Peggy Dean from the Pigeon Letters. Peggy is an incredible illustrator, calligrapher and educator. She loves teaching her community and regularly produces fantastic content to help her fellow creatives. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Peggy, welcome.
Yay! Thank you so much.
It is
spotlight.
Delightful to have you with us. How are you today?
I am doing spectacular, mostly because I get to start my day with you guys.
Ah, you old charmer, you. Peggy, I'm glad we could. I'm glad we could make this happen. Obviously, we've known each other for a while now. Huge fan of everything you're doing, and it's quite multifaceted. So I think we're going to cover a whole lot of different things today. There's going to be a bit of illustration, bit of calligraphy going on, bit of teaching, bit of audience building, marketing to Sate T8 Dustin. We know that's his jam. Peggy, do you mind kicking off by just introducing yourself and sharing your story a little bit for any of the listeners out there who've been under a rock and aren't familiar with you and your brand?
They under a rock. No, I appreciate you saying it. No, okay. I'm Peggy. I just have a big passion for oversharing. I love soaking up information. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. I just love learning so much. So it's a hard balance because there's learning and then there's doing and then there's reiterating. But the reiterating part happens almost as quickly as I learn it. So I turned my neuroses, if you will, into a platform where I could offer accessible resources for people who do want to dabble like I do. And I would call it dabbling. I mean, you mentioned illustration and lettering and teaching and marketing and all the things. And I do dabble. I love all of it. So I don't box myself in, and I want to also offer not boxing oneself in. So I offer courses and I offer a lot of information on my website. I am working on a whole membership platform that I'm really excited about because it's just kind of what I do. I love creating. Anything that has to do with creating. It's like something in my brain just makes sense with it. I just want to make all the time. And learn how to make. And I mean, I guess that's a nutshell about me. I'm really bad at elevator pitches. So
that was pretty good.
That was pretty good.
That was pretty good.
Cool.
And you've built quite a big community around this on your website, on your Instagram, and they seem to just love everything that you put out. So how did that transpire? Because I presume that wasn't overnight.
Okay. I want to say the overnight thing. I've had so many conversations about this, and and I feel weird saying it because I truly am a humble being, but it kind of happened overnight a little bit. And I'm not, I'm not really sure how. I have a theory, and I've been flown out to Skillshare a couple of times to talk to their team about how to talk to other teachers. And I think for me, the number one thing that is the foundation of my entire platform has nothing to do with creativity at all. I think it just has to do with authenticity, because I don't hold anything back. And literally what you see from me is what you get across any board. It just never changes. But I'm also genuine, and I try to be as relatable as possible because we're all human beings, whether you're an influencer
I love that.
So can I just say, for anyone wondering what the hell Peggy's talking about, we're giving Ian the new nickname of E-influencer, as in because he's an influencer. But hearing you say it, just it sounds like we're calling him influencer.
Yeah. Well, it works, but I say that because I know that people know Ian, and I know that people know that Ian's super humble, like so much so. Anytime I've ever picked up, I'm so happy that I finally get to hang out with Ian right now. Influencer, excuse me. But that's really what it is, though. It's just like, human connection. I think people, especially in such a modern digital age, people are craving human connection so much. So if you can provide that in the digital age, then that's what happened. I mean, I think that's how it happened for me. That's my bottom line.
Okay, so I'd love to get a closer look at that, because fantastic, be authentic, and we've talked about that on the show. But what did that look like? Did you start an Instagram and say, hey guys, today I'm having a bad hair day, I'm sharing it all, and then suddenly you've got like 100,000 followers? Like, how did it work?
Pretty much. I started an Instagram because I have no shame and I want to show and tell everything. I am the person that would come home, as a young person, and would make my mom watch me try on every article of clothing because I wanted her to see everything. So
a wallflower, we might say.
Oh, yes. I'm very shy. So I started putting that up. But what was the biggest thing for me was joining community. And so I jumped into a lot of fun social challenges that can be picked up on a hashtag. And then from there, you just kind of start building relationships. And over the years, I mean, some of them have stuck. Some of them have kind of like come in and out. There's new people, there's old people, there's like blasts from the past at this point, because it's like I'm up to 4 years in January. It's crazy how fast time flies. But yeah, for starters, it was just like, hey, I'm interested in modern calligraphy, so I'm going to see, if I can just join these challenges and write. What's the word? Monologue? No, like monologue. It's like a word. It's not a lettering term. Yeah, but it starts with an M. It's something like that. I don't remember, but it sticks in my brain still so much because I was like, I'm going to do this challenge and I'm going to be so cool and I'm going to do this flat lay in the grass. And I remember like playing with Instagram filters and I'm like, how can I make this look cool? And there was like 2 filters. If you combined it, suddenly it made your lettering look sparkly. And I'm like, I know stuff you don't know. But then I would just tell people like, look at this really cool situation that I accidentally made sparkly with a filter. But it was mostly just like playing and sharing that I liked it. And then, engaging with other people. And then from there, as far as how my platform started was, I had joined Skillshare just for fun's ease, and I needed something to do. I needed prompts, like I wanted motivation and inspiration. So I did that, but then I received an email for a Teach Challenge. And at the time, brush lettering, as far as like actual material to learn it didn't really exist at that time. I know it's saturated now, but I'm just going to go ahead and toot my own horn that I was one of the first people to start. I love that. But I had, I knew that other people were interested in it. I'd had questions. I'd overshared anyway. And when the Teach Challenge came in, I was like, yeah, I can do this. I'm not a pro, but like, I know the basics, and that's what people want to get into. And they also have to embrace when it's the basics and understand that like the ugly is ugly. So it really shows, my classes show my progression of getting better, which I think is kind of interesting approach. I will not watch them because it makes me cringe, but but it landed me on the Today Show, which is insane to me. Like it just happened like super
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You never told me that.
I know, my first class ever. So I won that challenge, and then I just started teaching, and then everything else kind of fell into place, and I started writing books, and then I got a lot of no's from publishers. And so I am, being the stubborn person I am, like, I don't need your yes. And so I looked into self-publishing. And because I had already had an established audience, those became bestsellers like within a week of being up on Amazon. So then they landed on shelves. And then all the publishers, of course, came back and they're like, we'd love to pick this up for you. I'm like, I see the numbers too. No, thank you.
Or here's my fee. Treble the price.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then, of course, a year and a half later, my dream publisher, who doesn't take unsolicited submissions, which was Penguin, came out, and I was like, okay, you can have it. So now they are published. Things just fell into place because I was eager. I just wanted, because I loved it. And that's why I tell people all the time is like, don't create to show, create because you're enjoying it. Like the bottom line at the end of the day is, why did you start? Because it made you happy to do it. Yep, exactly. That's it. If you lose that at all, you lose the entire thing.
And I don't want to hog the mic here, but that's fascinating, first of all, because I knew like a lot of pieces of that story, but not all of it. And now I'm like even more impressed by you, Peggy, because that's pretty crazy stuff.
Totally joking.
I don't need your yes.
Yeah, me too. I love that phrase.
That's freaking awesome. What I love is it seems like you weren't overthinking the sharing and the creation. So it's not like, oh, here's a class curriculum that I'm gonna, finesse forever. You were doing it in a real time setting. You were literally documenting everything you were doing. Like, I just, discovered this cool thing. I'm going to put it immediately out there. Almost dropping that filter that people have and that curation. You share it all. Can you give any tips for people around that, or is it more just like that's your personality?
Especially somebody who overthinks everything and needs it to be just so.
Right.
Are you thinking about you there?
Yes. I mean, I literally, sorry to interrupt you. I've been trying to put my third Skillshare class together, and I'm just in stasis because everything's like just has to be just so, and I'm not getting anywhere. So
I know.
Send any info.
So I've been on both sides because I have, I think, upwards of 40 classes on Skillshare. I counted the other day, and I'm like, how though? Wow. I know, it's insane. I know.
Took me forever just to get one out there.
But I understand how, because in the beginning, I did not. Well, the very first class, you can tell I was very stiff, but I also was myself. But what I would tell people a lot in coaching, especially when you're initially getting into it, is people, unless you are teaching video editing or photography or something that has to do with visuals, unless you're teaching something like that, people don't care. They just want content.
Yeah.
So they don't care if you're saying if you say like and as much as I do, then of course you want to edit it out. So it's funny. No, when I watch myself when I'm editing, it's like all of a sudden everything just goes quiet. Like I'm talking, you know how quickly I talk, but then everything goes quiet and I'm just staring off into space. And then I just continue as if nothing happened. And it's really fast. And it's like, I didn't give myself any break there to like pick that up again. And, how some professional settings, when someone's filming you, they have you reset and look at the camera and smile to reset. I don't do any of that. But, with classes, here's my main overall of what I've always done is I just bullet point things that I don't want to miss as far as segments go. And then if there are key things I don't want to forget within those bullet points, I'll put them down. But it is a very brief, like kindergarten style bullet point. And I just talk about what I know how to do. Because if I overplan it at all, it's like I am never, ever happy with the outcome.
And so do you avoid doing multiple takes? Like over and over to get it right.
Takes.
You just
never.
You do it, and even if you kind of mess up a little bit, you're like, whatever, I'll keep going.
I have a class right now that it's just sitting there because I just have to record an intro, but I hate getting ready. Maybe I'll do it today because I got ready for you, Tom. But it's just a project based class, and it's just something silly. But the end result, you guys, it looks so amateur and so bad. It looks so bad. That. No, I promise you, when you see it, you're going to be like, I don't know which one she was talking about. But the whole process is just fun, and it's just something that people can be mindful about, and like they can just play, and that reaches people too. There's a class right now that keeps getting promoted about self-discovery through like random art, and it's not like I'm not going to say anything about what the finished product looks like. I think that, it's not anything special, basically. You're just exploring. But that one keeps getting, it's at the top of the list right now. And it's just because it's focusing on being present in the creative exploration.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot to it. So I think that, like, at the end of the day, I don't think they care. I think they just want you to walk with them, and like they want somebody to create with. That's what I want. I jump on and take classes all the time for that reason. Because I'm just like, play with me. Yeah.
You're kind of. I think you're hitting on this, but I almost just want to see if I can condense it more because it's so fascinating. So, example from my life: when I go to a conference and stop watching my business, like I work on 5 to 8 hours a day. and then when I leave and go to a conference, it makes more money. It's almost like I bottleneck my business and ruin it whenever I'm around working on it. So constantly I'll be doing things and I'll think, perhaps if I just stopped doing this, like nothing would change. And so when you're like, oh, I don't do more takes, I just bulleted things like a kindergartner, it all turned out fine. It makes you think, what am I doing in my life that is completely unnecessary, and I'm just creating an illusion in my own mind? So what is your philosophy? Like, what do you think the core thing is when people are watching your class, that even though they're like, okay, she said a lot, like she had to kind of inventory this in her mind. What are they coming for? Like, what do they love the most that you're doing?
The number one thing that I hear people either review or tell me directly, I get a lot of emails all the time about how they feel like I don't sugarcoat, and I don't make something, I don't try to over professionalize myself, and that they feel like I'm just their friend that's sitting with them and hanging out. Like, that's my number one that I hear from all over anything, is just that it feels like a friend is sitting down. Even my books, that's one of the biggest reviews and blurbs I've gotten, is like, my friend is just hanging out with me and talking to me like a human.
That is awesome. That is.
Yeah, I love that. And it's easier said than done, because I think there's a lot of people who are very, very genuine and gregarious, but put a camera on them.
Cameras in your face.
Yeah, you get awkward.
Intimidating.
Like, it's taken me years to be this comfortable and be myself. At first, I was pretty awkward. Did you ever have that, or were you were good?
Of course, yes.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
With the awkward though, I'm really extroverted, so it's easy for me to say that. Whereas some people are more introverted. It's harder for them to break out of that shell when they're talking to a camera. But for me, the biggest thing, my biggest savior in pushing through that boulder was making jokes at my own expense. So embracing that I was being awkward, maybe leaving that in and not cutting it.
Self-deprecating.
Things like that. Because it's funny because it's like all it's doing is being relatable. All it's doing is making you human. And like, it just puts a little personality in it. Like, do you want to go and listen to a lecture that is just point blank the bullet points, or do you want to like have that person kind of insert a joke here and there and like get you like actually? I think it's a focus thing. Like in, again, digital world, like we're so quick with our attention span that you're not going to lose anybody by going off subject for just a minute and making something light or putting in a personal story here and there. Just like, oh my gosh, the other day this happened. And I've done that in my classes because it's just like, hey, that was a perfect segue. I don't have to like reroute and reset my focus. I can just include them in on this.
When you have a certain, I think you have a certain natural charisma, it seems like, about you. Like, I noticed myself. I noticed myself listening to you, and I'm like you start like zoning out like a television show, and you're like watching you. But it's interesting because when you talk about, sometimes I finish these classes and like the end result is not good. Or it's okay, maybe, is the thing. But I can see clearly you're very good. But also, when the end result is not good, it sounds like people are still like, yeah, that's fine. Is that what you find? That people are still like, yeah, we still went on the journey and learned stuff. And I don't care if your thing didn't turn out like
Well,
amazing.
You have to remember, too, like, for one, everyone's style is different. And there are some really big name artists who draw or they paint or they do digital work that doesn't look I guess I'm going to air quote correct, because it's not, up to terms with what, traditional training is, but their art is brilliant, So I think that we have to remember that everyone has a different approach and a different preference on what they are interested in and like. So even though I might not think it looks great, somebody's going to be like, oh my gosh, that hits on exactly the style that I love. The other part is we don't know where people are in their journey. This could be the very first time they ever pick up said tool. So for them, it might look a little more advanced. And I'm not going to say all over the place, like, hey, come take this class on this piece that sucks, because it doesn't suck to everybody.
No,
to me, it sucks because I know where I'm at and I'm like, oh, that was a mishap. But I just think like perfectionism is so overrated. And the only reason that we are perfectionists is because we know who we look up to and we stalk them.
Yes.
And then when we do it and we know what we're capable of doing and it doesn't reach that potential, the potential that the two parts of like, okay, well, I know where I'm at, and then I know where this person is at that I totally idolize, and those two don't match, and it's like not to par. Does that make this work bad, or does it just make it part of my process?
Yeah.
And people appreciate process.
I like that so much.
They do. I feel like there's been about 10 gold nuggets. Ian, you're going to jump in, so I'll come back to that. Take it away, buddy.
No, you can continue. I was going to go down a slightly different route because I was just wondering whether you got how you deal with negative comments, or do you not got any because you're just so nice?
No.
The charisma's too powerful.
Yeah, it's like a force field. All the trolls try to get in, but they just can't.
The followers will attack if anyone says anything.
Yeah.
I do get negative comments, and I find it
You've been
strange
drinking the haterade.
Well, it's frustrating to me. I don't take it personally most of the time. And there are some that I do. And I think it's just like you have to build a wall around it, because the bigger that you get, the more criticism you're going to get. Like, it's just the way that it works. I get emails that are shameful. People will shame me. It's like pointing fingers. It's just like, what is it? I don't watch Game of Thrones. Sorry, everybody. I just don't care. I think it's boring. But I did catch it when they were all shame. Like, that's what it feels like. I'm like, but then it's like a joke. Like, who are you shaming? And the first thing that I do is I always just click to see if their profile's blocked, because that just gives me all the validation I want. I'm like, oh, hide behind there and troll. I mean, if that's what makes you feel better. but it does. I mean, it's personal. I've had lives where people have said, ew, beaver teeth, F. What? So yeah, I have big teeth. Like, this is I was born this way, baby. But then there was also one that said wear a bra. I mean, these are like physical attacks. And it's just unnecessary. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But
that is insane.
I know. And I've had her nails. I've had people tag their friends and say, like, her nails are so annoying, as if I don't see my own comments. Sometimes, yeah, like, we don't always see them, but like,
it's like you're in a zoo, they're looking at a window, they're like, her nails are so annoying.
Yeah.
You should respond to it and tag your friends and be like, this comment is so annoying.
What I should do is just start uploading some ASMR. Is that what it's called? Where I'm just I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah,
Nice.
That's what I should start doing. My nails are normal, everybody. Look, they're just normal.
We should do a whole episode like that. Just ASMR.
No, I should. We should, yeah, no.
Wait.
That was good.
We're gonna start whispering into the mic and amplify.
I think that would be the best idea, but you have to slow it down a little.
That stuff freaks me out.
I play with these wooden beads very gently.
I've got a blackboard over there. Can I run my fingers down it, or is that the wrong thing?
I like
That's the wrong thing. It's meant to be nice.
The tapping was good.
I sometimes go to sleep to those videos.
I never saw the point, but when we started doing that just there, I was like, that feels kind of nice. It's like a little sensory thing going on.
Yeah.
We should have a session, guys. It won't be weird.
I think I might just take up a bit of listening to that before bed. Guys, that was not the ASMR. Peggy knocked something off her desk. We're keeping it. We're keeping it authentic here.
It's fine. I'll show you. No, I won't. It's a hot mess around here. Like, this little area looks like I live in this like nice clean land, but like just what's in front of me even.
Don't worry,
working on things like we all do. Yeah, it's a mess.
For some reason, when you said that, it reminded me of last night. Someone was like, "Oh, I'm just having a problem with my bank, and there's not money in it."
This is not even on that topic, but it reminds me, have you guys seen the meme or the viral whatever video where the guy's at the ATM? Oh my gosh, it's so funny to me. But I've like, every time I think of it or I've watched it so many times and I still laugh just as hard. The video where he's at the ATM and the screen is glitching, so it's like the card, then the hand is doing this, and he just goes, okay. He just shakes his card all over the machine.
I think your impression is actually going to be better than when we watch the meme.
You guys go look at it.
You need to send that to us for real.
I feel like there's about 14 listeners who are like nodding along and cracking up right now.
Yeah.
Everyone else is equally as confused as we are.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to put that in the show notes.
I feel like I've been there. Stuff like that happens. You're like, what's going on? I don't.
It's so worth it. There's just like those things that you have to have access to at all times, and that's one of those videos.
It reminds me of that thing. Do you ever go to click a tab on your computer and then like the notification pops up at the perfect second, and then like you click some notification to go to some website you didn't want to go to, and you're like, son of a...
Yes. It's fine. You guys, I want to really though touch on the negative comment thing.
Yes.
I think that more people get them the bigger they get when they're not authentic. But when you are authentic, I mean, okay, excuse me. I want to back up. No, I'm not saying they're not authentic. Not at all. I guess I mean when they're more polished, when they present themselves more polished. That's what I mean. Because I know that these people, I have people in my mind, we all have those people that we immediately think of, and they are definitely authentic. They just happen to be really polished and like, whatever. Like, I don't understand you. Well, you're adorable.
That excludes the four of us, guys.
Clearly.
There's precisely no polish going on here.
No.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their jam, and it's just not mine. But I think that gets more negative comments because it's making people feel better about themselves. They might look at somebody and like, follow them and be inspired by them, but then they might see something that they don't like, and somehow commenting on how it wasn't this enough or how they should have used this or something like that. That's more the negativity that I'm thinking of. So it's not necessarily like point blank, but it's more of like, hey, I know a little more than you, and you should feel a little embarrassed that you weren't as smart as me. And they say it because they need the recognition and validation, because you're talking to someone who has like 300,000 followers, but then you have 20, and it's like, that's a tough place to be. And it's social media. Like follower count, it can work in your benefit, but the algorithm makes it so it can't. I'm not saying it can't. Like, there are tricks and things that you can do to grow your audience, but like at the end of the day, no matter who you are, no matter if you are the person that's saying, oh, well, I think that this might work a little better, just think about how you're saying it, but then also remember why you started.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's such a simple thing to say, but it's self-reflection. Like, get off the internet. You have to. I give myself 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night to answer all my DMs. I mean, obviously, after you post, like, check back within the hour because of engagement, whatever, if you have time. But like, when you set that for yourself, it's seriously, I know that everyone's like, how do you do that? That's incredible. That's insane. I could never, but you can. Mm-hmm. You just have to give yourself the permission to leave. And then if you have browsing time, like, sure, browse, but don't make it a habit. Don't sit there and lose hours comparing yourself. Yeah. Because inspiration exists, but the longer that you sit there, it becomes this delusional trap that makes you compare yourself. I do it all the time.
It's so true.
Looking at certain sites that made me feel bad. Like, literally, there's a certain site, which I will not mention, and whenever it goes to the homepage by accident, I literally block my face until it's off of it. Because it's made me so sad for so many years.
Right. And then what happens is you're completely stifled and you can't move forward because you're stuck in this rumination, and it's a cycle, and then nothing takes off. And then at the end of the day, you're not doing anything for yourself anymore. Yeah. You're doing, or you're not doing it at all. And that's so sad. It's so sad, because why are we doing this? Why are we all gathered together? Because we're passionate people. We're passionate about creating. We share that. It's palpable. So like, let's encourage that. And if I could go in circles on saying this different ways, but I think that my point is out.
Well, you can tell because you get kind of emotionally charged a bit about it. And I could relate. I feel like it's good to say, because I think it's good to hear permission over and over again.
I kept shouting "preach" in my head as you're saying.
But even if we speak about this all the time, we must. I mean, I know what I'm saying is like, we often think, okay, well, we've spoken about this so many times, but I think we need to. I think it's like a topic we got to like constantly remind ourselves and each other that it's like, it's why did we start it in the first place?
I know. It's so sad.
Well, yeah, because it's like interjecting into the cycle, because we're going to come up with the other cycle no matter what. So the more that we can do that, who is it? Alana Griffo. She posted this just basic, like this pretty hand lettering she had listened to a podcast, and I wish I could credit it. I don't remember which one it was, but it was the first time I'd ever heard, I mean, we all hear community over competition, but it was the first time I'd ever heard creation over consumption. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
I've made it my
Yeah,
wallpaper.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I asked her to make it a wallpaper or to make it a print because I wanted it so bad. I'm like, I will buy this from you because I just loved it. It was the first time I ever heard it. And like, when I pick my phone up and I want to open Instagram, I'm like, hey, maybe I should create something right now. It's just,
I love that mantra. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always think there's 100 people, 99 of them are scrolling on their feed, aimlessly wasting hours. One of them is creating the content in that feed for the people to consume.
I think I'm suffering from a thing called inspiration overload, where I've consumed so much of, like, you know, Pinterest and stuff I see on Instagram all over the place, and that actually my mind is sort of stuck in this sort of place where it can't actually see where it needs to go, and like I just need to sort of like stop and like you're doing, limit myself to how much I spend on social media.
You have to.
I think there's this thing where you think, if I don't check it, you know, you're like,
I know.
I think what it comes from is actually when I was a teenager, I suffered from missing out, where you like have to go out in the evenings and see people because you feel like they're going to be having fun and you're
FOMO.
not.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I haven't.
Man, every Friday in my 20s.
Yeah, and it's just like, and I feel like I'm in that place where if I don't look at that social media feed, I'm going to miss out on that one thing that's suddenly going to spark such a big idea that it's going to be the best piece that anyone's ever seen. But I know that it's not the case. And I think it's that sort of like giving yourself like strict rules to how much you consume. So you avoid.
It makes, I used to say that and I still feel trapped. Like, it's still in my head. I still feel trapped. I still feel comparison and whatnot. But just to be completely candid, this is something I don't feel good about, and it makes me sick, but I'm just going to share it because it's part of my journey. Last month I had a very, I guess it was two months ago, I had a very, very good friend in this industry who I formed from the industry, who told me that she had been contacted by a handful of people explaining that some pieces of my work, and I dabble in a lot of different media and a lot of different styles because it's just what I enjoy, was looking like hers. And having a friend tell me that, I felt completely stifled. I felt like my identity was being stripped. I felt, it felt really bad, you guys. Like, and I didn't share that. I haven't shared that publicly with anyone. I've told two people.
Oh.
Wait,
It just
they said
feels,
that your friends looked like yours, or yours looked like your friends.
Or your friend said
mine
your work
looked like hers.
And was that
Like,
your
I
friend?
was
Yeah, was your friend saying your work looks like mine?
Right, but she wasn't full on taking ownership. She was more so saying, like, she didn't want to talk, you know, she felt bad saying stuff about me to these people when they were addressing her. And we're friends, like, we're very good friends. We had a very open and raw conversation, but I'm not going to lie, like, this lingers and sits and instills in me every single day because it makes me sick. It makes me feel really gross. It makes me kind of feel like a loser. And that's just my truth. And so I was like, but then the hardest part, instead of me getting mad and being like, really, like, she invented that style, you know, blah, 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 thinking about all that, I had to kind of do some self-reflection. And I asked myself, like, am I being inspired by this? And my truth was like, yeah, I would be lying if I wasn't inspired by her work. I would be lying if I said I didn't like it. And so that is my reason that I took the last half of September and I did not open Instagram. I deleted it from my phone. I've never done that before, ever, but I needed to because I needed to look inside of myself. And in the process, I travel a lot, and I traveled to some places, and I juried a fine art show. I started working with some card companies, things like that. Just new things were happening. And while those new things might have been happening before, my focus completely changed and my motivation, my inspiration changed. And now I have, you guys, the amount of productivity, and I'm since returned to Instagram and I'm there, but I don't feel attached to it the same way. And that happened in 2 weeks, 2 weeks of taking a break. And it was it's kind of a blessing in disguise. And it is a gross feeling. It's just the grossest feeling. It's the last thing I ever want. You know, when people come to me and they say, well, am I copying this? What happens if I feel a little too inspired? It's like, you know, just read Austin Kleon's book, Steal Like an Artist. Like, just read it, because there is no such thing as an original idea. That's true. But borrow pieces and make it your own. And that's what I was doing. And I have done some really hard comparisons since then. And yes, it was different, but I'm still happy that I got that feedback, because I was able to be a little more introspective. Yeah.
And probably like in hindsight, you would feel worse if you didn't ever know.
Right. Yeah, totally. And I wouldn't know. And then I would probably get buried into that overly inspired feeling, and that, browsing a little too long, even if the 10 minutes that I spent, I say 10 minutes, sometimes it turns into 20, but I think you understand my point.
Yeah.
It turns into over inspiration. It turns into blocking what might come of my own ideas. But I mean, like, I'm working on 3 giant canvases and decided that I'm going to do an art show for the first time. Like, these are just things that I never knew I'd have interest in. And it's just really cool to be able to allow yourself a break.
I love it. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Especially in this kind of public
tough.
forum. No, I appreciate it. Have you thought about going on one of these friends' videos and just being like, "Nice nails, bitch," and just become a hater? Because I hear that's really good for like your ego and your confidence. If you hate what other people are doing, then in turn it makes you feel better about yourself. I think that's how it works.
But it's so true, because that whole saying of what's most personal is most universal. I don't know how long that's been going around, but I only heard it in the past year, and I was like, yeah. Like, when you say that, I'm like, yeah, of course. Everyone does that, but no one ever wants to mention it.
Yep.
But yeah, that happens to everybody, and then we all feel bad by ourselves in our corner.
But yeah, it's probably the ugly. I'm really shocked that I shared that, knowing this is going to be public. But I think that it's just one of those things that, like, it makes us so human. And like, the minute, you're right, that I would have felt worse about it, because if I hadn't reflected, then I would have that invisible burden of feeling like just trapped in like this, the inspiration trap, the comparison trap. Like, I would feel that, but I feel kind of free right now, and it's a cool feeling. It feels empowering. So I think that there's there's definitely a balance. Obviously, you can't just start and draw a stick figure, but I mean, you can, and make that your own, sure. So there's a balance, and I think that that's just the most important, is to be mindful of give yourself a restriction, or give yourself a limit, or be mindful of it. I'm going to say mindful a lot right now. But yeah, that's basically my point.
I have a question for you. You said you love to learn stuff and you try a lot of new things. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with the part of your brain that when you see something new that you're starting to do, you realize there is a significant time and effort gap before this will look anything like what I wish it would? And that really sucks. Like, what is your internal conversation when you realize that and you're trying something new all the time?
Because I know I'm a learner, I actually get really excited about that process. What I will say, though, is, I think that it's important to find the right resources and a reputable source, which is what I try to be. I know that a lot of you guys try to be, and finding that. Sorry, I'm like shifting around and I'm like ASMR time.
Yeah, Dustin, you're making us squirm. With
literally.
Oh my
goodness. These tough questions.
It's that soft, deep voice.
Answer me, Peggy.
Okay, so learning for me is like the most fun. So I think embracing that moment, because that's when you can create and be like, oh my gosh, look what I did. But it's a matter of like, oh, I'm just going to go into painting with gouache. I just did a workshop on this, and it's, gouache is a fun medium. It can be tricky, but it's just a matter of like, I've painted with, I'm let's say my name is Allie. I've painted with gouache. My name's Allie. Hi. I painted with gouache for 4 months now, and it always looks like crap. And then her friend, Samantha, is like, I've painted with it, and it always looks like crap because mine just looks like goops. And then the other gal, Allie, I'm Allie again. She's like, mine always looks like watercolor. Why? And then, you know, when they just understand that Allie needs a little more pigment, or she needs to, and then what's her name? Samantha, she needs to pull her pigment into water more instead of picking it up as if it's acrylic, you know, like these are just like little tweaks. So it's cool for me as a learner to be able to just make that slight adjustment and understand and problem solve, and then see, oh my gosh, that was all I needed. It's like light bulbs go off in your head. And when
it's
you
the best
learn
feeling.
Right. Yeah. Tiny little process, like just celebrate the little steps. And I think that, you know, when you're learning correctly, instead of just jumping in and trying it, but actually having resources to learn those little steps to problem solve along the way, that's when it's really exciting. And then when it comes to, because it's not about the finished piece. People were asking me when I was teaching lettering and drawing, when are you going to teach a watercolor class? Like, we really want to learn watercolor florals. And I'm like, what on earth makes you think I have any idea how to use watercolors?
Not yet.
What makes you think I know anything about that? And then that became one of my biggest staples. And all that I did was I was like, you know, obviously my audience has spoken, and this is what is, you know, wanted, and I'm just going to deliver. So I went and I took 1 month and I just learned watercolor, and then I turned around and I taught it after 1 month. And I wasn't great, but I taught it, and
you're a month ahead of them.
Right.
I feel like when we have inspiring guests on, there's normally one in a nutshell thing that people take away. And for example, when we had Dina Rodriguez on, it was very much like, just be your true self, and like, don't give a shit about what everyone's thinking, and so on. With this episode, my takeaway is not only that authenticity, but it's just jump in with both feet and just go for it. Because there's so many people who have that scarcity mindset and that imposter syndrome, and but I couldn't possibly do that. And you're like, I'll figure it out. I'm just going to jump in and do it. And you've shared so many wonderful anecdotes around that. I hope this does give it a little jolt of motivation to all the listeners to be like, you know what, I am going to take this as permission to try.
Yes, permission, why not? Yeah.
But yeah, really, really appreciate you jumping on with us, Peggy. You've been amazing.
Thank you. So fun.
Do you want to come back? Because I know we're a little bit time constrained, so we'll definitely have you back in the future.
Yeah, I would love to have Peggy back.
Sure.
Please.
But in the meantime,
I would love it.
Where can the lovely listeners find you online?
Yeah, so my website is...
I love how I added online, not like your home address.
Well, let's see. I'm in
Where
Portland.
are you right now?
You can stalk her at this.
Are you in Portland?
I am.
I'm in Portland, Oregon?
Uh-huh.
I'm in Vancouver, Washington.
No, you're not.
Yeah. Maybe
How far away?
Stop
How
it.
far away is that?
Can you see me? I can see
I'm
you
waving.
right now. Yeah, can you see me?
Yeah.
This is incredible.
Hey, can you see me blinking on my lights? I'm right here.
Wait, I got this guy here
it's
ready.
like the Great Gatsby, people.
That's amazing. We should have coffee, obviously.
Yeah. We should.
Okay, cool. Anyway, the Pigeon Letters. I know. The pigeonletters.com, and yeah, that's where. And then I have my membership coming up, which is going to be like a one-stop resource for literally everyone at any point in their journey, and that's just going to be called The Flock. So,
and you said you couldn't do an elevator pitch. Look at that closer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, that was pretty good. I'm going to have to re-listen to that because I don't really know what I said. Okay.
Peggy.
But everything has to be bird related, obviously.
Oh, yeah. But of course. Peggy, thank you again so much. Everyone go and check out. There's a wealth of stuff there. I mean, as I'm sure you took away from this episode, Peggy's someone who likes to do. So it's been years and years of just, producing fantastic teaching resources, brushes, and everything you can possibly think of. It's a creative haven. Go check it out. Peggy, thanks again. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye from us.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes and now Spotify by searching for The Honest Designers Show. And remember, we're now on social media too, if you search for Honest Designers. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for other designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on the Honest Designers Show.